Amidst his epic bachelor party, the groom-to-be has to prove his loyalty, fight temptations, and even survive an assassination attempt long enough to return to his bride. Rick Gasco arrives late at a Catholic school to pick up the students. The nun scolds him for the bus driver's tardiness, so he makes a sarcastic excuse that he saved a drowning infant. The nun waves him off and ushers the students onto the bus. Once they're far enough, Rick's loud music encourages the supposedly proper students to wreak havoc. In a department store, Rick's friend Jay O'Neill assists a woman in taking photos of her son. However, he's more interested in her figure, and when the bus driver arrives, he joins his friend's antics with a woman. Later in an auto shop, Rudy tries changing a car's oil when the vehicle breaks apart. He blames American engineering as Rick's bus drives in to pick him up. Afterward, they go to a ticket store where Gary struggles with canceled concerts. Before joining his friends, Gary answers another call and cusses immediately, thinking it's another cancellation. However, it's his mother calling, so he quietly notes the groceries he needs to pick up. The four then go to a restaurant where the waiter, Ryko, complains about how cheese makes him snotty, much to the customer's disgust. Once everyone is gathered, Rick announces that he's getting married. His buddies all argue in disbelief, thinking that his marriage will end their friendship. However, Jay points out that they're ruining Rick's happiest day, so the guilty men congratulate him, still with a hint of sadness. To uplift their mood, Jay suggests giving Rick a grand send-off, and the idea of an epic bachelor party excites them. In an apparel shop, Tracy and other sales ladies prioritize dancing to the music rather than their customers' needs. Another customer approaches her coworker, Debbie Thompson, to find the fitting room, so she leads him there. She notices that Tracy's brother did a questionable job with the doors. Bobby approaches the two, hearing from Jay that Debbie is getting married. She wonders if her ex-boyfriend Cole knows, but Debbie just complains how the man won't leave her alone, and her parents think Rick is better dead. Later in Rick's house, the groom-to-be haphazardly tosses ingredients in the pan and uses a blowtorch to cook. Debbie arrives and announces that her friends are throwing her a bridal shower, so Rick adds that his friends are throwing a stag party. Surprised, Debbie makes him promise that they won't get any female entertainers. The next day, Rick sees his brother Stan for a routine checkup. He invites him to the party and reveals they've already hired women. Hearing this, the doctor panics and closes the door, saying his wife is nearby. He admonishes his brother's marriage decision since he misses all the wild things he can't do since getting married. On Rick's way out of the clinic, they pass by Stan's wife Tina, who is in the middle of an awkward exam. She approaches Rick with tainted fingers, and the bus driver struggles to keep her off, so he accidentally blurts about the hired women for the party. This horrifies the wife, so Stan chases his brother around for telling the secret before throwing him out of the clinic. Later, the betrothed couple play tennis with Debbie's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. However, Rick keeps hitting the ball off the court, over the fence, and toward their neighbor's house, annoying his future in-laws. As Rick and Mr. Thompson relax later, his future father-in-law lists down all his bad qualities, clearly disapproving of his daughter's fiancée. Since he can't convince Debbie to back out of the wedding, he just advises the bus driver to change his ways. On the other side of the pool, Debbie's cousin Eileen expresses her distrust of Rick's bachelor party. Debbie defends her fiancé, but Eileen argues that her ex-boyfriend promised not to hire women too, but he still ended up doing so. The group soon has lunch together, though the parents still struggle to tolerate Rick's mannerisms. Just then, Cole arrives and greets the parents politely, appeasing them before joining Mr. Thompson to a tennis match. Debbie sneers and asks her mom why Cole is here, so the woman explains that her father and him are still good friends. During their game, Mr. Thompson encourages Cole to dissuade Rick from marrying his daughter, clearly preferring his friend to become his son-in-law. The man even allows him to use drastic measures if he needs to. As Rick and Debbie leave later, Cole asks to talk to Rick privately. He tries to bribe Rick with money to back off, but this fails. Debbie joins in, so her fiancé hints that her ex-boyfriend was trying to buy her from him. Mr. Thompson defends the other man, insisting that his daughter is making a mistake with Rick. The woman just scoffs at them before leaving with her fiancé. Later at night, however, Debbie has trouble sleeping since she's actually worried about the wedding and the parties. Rick assures her that everything will be fine, and despite her doubts, Debbie trusts him. On the night of the parties, Rick and his buddies drop Debbie off at her parents' house for her bridal shower. Obviously still worried, the bride-to-be suggests hanging out with them for a bit, but Rick carries her off the bus and swears his loyalty to her. He then returns to the bus but looks back at Debbie with concern, revealing that he's also worried about what the night will lead to. In an alley, Gary approaches a man managing women for hire to book them for their event. After he leaves, however, Cole drives up to the manager. Having seen Gary speak speak to the man, he tells the manager to send the ladies to a different house, claiming that they recently changed the venue. Rick's group soon arrives at the hotel where their old friend Brad Mullen joins them. However, he is already under the influence, and when asked about his wife, he just mutters that he hates the woman. Meanwhile, in the Thompson residence, Eileen notices the bride-to-be and Bobby giggling, so Debbie reveals that they sabotaged some questionable videos they found in Jay's car yesterday. Eileen approves this act and hopes it ruins the men's party. At the hotel, Jay welcomes his buddies to the luxury suite and starts a movie for their entertainment. While he's setting up, Brad suddenly tells Rick that his marriage is horrible, so he warns the groom-to-be that everything will change after the wedding. Before the groom-to-be can ask further, the movie starts. Rudy cheers as the steamy video gets them excited, but as soon as the action starts, it cuts to the end, leaving everyone disappointed. Confused, Jay assures them that the next part will be better, but it cuts again before the good bits happen. Desperate to save the party, Jay promises that Gary's coming with 2 real women, lifting their spirits. Instead, however, the women arrive at the Thompson residence just as Tina rings the doorbell. Parked outside the home, Cole watches as Mrs. Thompson invites the ladies inside, relishing that his scheme worked before driving off. Despite seeing the venue filled with modest-looking ladies, the entertainers begin performing for their audience, making everyone fall silent. Meanwhile, Gary finally arrives at the suite, so the deprived men gang up on him, demanding for the ladies. Confused as to why they're not there yet, Gary leaves to investigate while Jay gets blamed for the party's lame start. Cole suddenly barges in and asks to talk to his rival. He leads him to the window and points out his expensive car. The bus driver feigns astonishment while signaling Rudy, so the mechanic excuses himself. Cole then offers his car in exchange for Rick dumping Debbie. The groom-to-be sarcastically gives his buddy's opinion and nobody gives a clear answer, buying time for Rudy as he gets into the car and drives away with it. The ex then leads Rick back to the window to convince him to take his vehicle, only to find that it's already gone. Horrified, he threatens Rick and scrambles away. Meanwhile, Eileen leads the bridal shower to a male dance show to get even with the men. Debbie still doubts that Rick hired those women, but her cousin insists that they were meant for his bachelor party. As everyone else, including her mother, gets drawn by the male performers, Debbie has no choice but to tag along. Unbeknownst to them, the bartender, Michael, is Rick's friend, so he calls the bus driver to tell him that Debbie is there. Surprised and curious, Rick gathers the guys to investigate, though Brad chooses to stay in the suite. As the rest leave the hotel, Mr. Thompson arrives to appear as a keynote speaker for a convention. In the entertainment bar, the women cheer as they watch the men dance. The lead dancer then takes Tina to the stage and starts dancing with a nervous doctor. Rick and his buddies soon arrive and check on the women from the kitchen. This has Stan surprised upon finding his wife enthusiastically dancing with the male lead. Michael then presents the establishment's well-endowed star entertainer. This gives the men an idea for a prank, so they set him up to serve Debbie's group. They watch the man go to the group and serve them foot-long sandwiches. When Mrs. Thompson takes one, she struggles, thinking it's stuck to the tray. She panics upon realizing but continues to hold on to her sandwich anyway. The men laugh at this, but this leads to Eileen spotting them, so they leave. In the red light district, Gary seeks women for hire and speaks to their manager. The manager agrees to let them work for 45 minutes only. Otherwise, his bodyguard Milt will get the women and Gary's family jewels as payment. The nervous man regretfully shakes on this deal, desperate to liven up their party. The men return to the hotel victorious, but Rick finds Brad trying to drown himself in the tub. He drains the tub and tries to console his friend, saying his marriage can work out. However, the sad man refuses to believe this and tries to drown himself again, only to hit his head. On the hotel's ground floor, Rudy sees Cole and tells him to look at his car outside. The man rushes out to find his expensive car given a fiery makeover, so he vows vengeance on Rick and his friends. At the suite, Jay grows worried about their lame party when Rick notices that everyone is gone. Suddenly, everyone surprises him as the women have arrived to liven up their party. Despite expecting this turn of events, the groom-to-be becomes worried. In Mrs. Thompson's home, the ladies are fuming at the prank the men pulled, so they start disguising themselves to get back at them. Meanwhile, the party continues as a band arrives, allowing everyone to dance wildly to the music. Soon, Stan comes out of a room brazen, thanking the woman he was just with. He then urges his brother to take his turn, but Rick worries at how his married brother and friend are acting. He asks what married life is like, and Stan replies that it eventually gets numb. More people get drawn to the party music and join in. Amidst the dancing, Gary meets eyes with a large woman who carries him to bed. With the party going wild, the groom-to-be goes to the bathroom for some space and finds Brad trying to wound himself. Rick sends him off to the party, hoping to lift his spirits when Gary comes in, saying he's in love with the woman he's been with. Rick leaves him to bask in his afterglow, and soon, the woman comes in to use the toilet. However, she does this while standing, so Gary watches in horror as the person he bedded calls himself Tim and leaves. Brad samples the recreational substances at the party and starts dancing, seemingly overjoyed. Meanwhile, Stan and Ryko arrive at a bar somewhere and decide to take a donkey. Jay soon finds Rick mulling during his bachelor party, so the groom-to-be tries to wave off his concerns, claiming he's having the time of his life. Sure that he's lying, Jay then reveals that he invited their beautiful friend Tracy to give him a proper send-off. Reluctantly, Rick goes to the room where Tracy is, but the guilty man starts hallucinating, making him rush outside and tell Jay that he can't do it. Meanwhile, in the opposite building, Cole enters a room facing Rick's suite and takes out a crossbow. He loads it and targets Rick, but the paid women's manager suddenly barges into the hotel. When Cole pulls the trigger, his target looks away, and the arrow lands beside the manager. This scares him off, so he decides to call his bodyguard. Rick notices the bolt just as another one hits, leading them to discover Cole in the opposite building. Outside, Debbie and her cohorts arrive dressed as ladies of the night. However, Milt sees them and assumes they're his boss's ladies, so he steers them to another room where eager businessmen are waiting. Elsewhere, Cole struggles to see where Rick is, unaware that his rival, Rudy, Jay, and Tracy are outside his room. The men send Tracy to distract Cole, then charge in, tie him up, and leave him suspended out the window. Cole hangs for dear life as the bed he's tied to gives way, leading him to drop into a car's sunroof and horrifying the couple inside. Meanwhile, Mr. Thompson walks with his colleague on the hotel's ground floor when he bumps into Cole. The embarrassed man reports what happened and where Rick is, so the father decides to take matters into his own hands. The party upstairs grows wilder as Stan and Ryko bring the donkey in for one of the women to dance with. Before anything exciting happens, Mr. Thompson enters and confronts Rick, threatening to tell Debbie about what he's doing. This makes the groom-to-be nervous, more so when Jay offers to let Mr. Thompson call Debbie from another room. Thinking he's won, the father heads to the room while Rick confronts his friend for helping him. However, Jay has other ideas and sends women to the room to distract the future father-in-law. As the party continues, the donkey samples the recreational substances, leading it to pass away accidentally. This forces the men to take its body away. Downstairs, the hotel manager answers a noise complaint, so he marches to the elevator to stop the party, only to see the lifeless donkey inside. Elsewhere, Debbie and her group lead the businessmen into a room, promising to give them the night they want. However, the women lock them there to escape, though Eileen stays to have her fun. The women run to the elevator only to be repulsed by the donkey. The rest head for the stairs, but Debbie finally notices that she's near Rick's party, so she goes alone. Stan and Gary immediately spot her and alert Rick. Knowing that his fiancée is spying on him, he tells his friends to send her to the bedroom. With that, Gary pretends not to know her and sends her to the bedroom to meet the groom. Soon enough, Rick enters and pounces on the woman. Appalled, Debbie pushes him off and confronts him for trying to sleep with someone else. Rick tries to reveal that he knew it was her, but she rushes off. Rick catches her in the middle of the party and tries to explain himself, but Debbie refuses to believe him. To convince her, he hops up a table and asks everyone if he slept with anyone tonight, and they all say no. Rick assures his fiancée that she's the only one for him. This finally convinces her, so she invites him to another room to enjoy the party together. When she opens the door, however, she finds her bound father surrounded by women. Just then, the hotel manager and the police arrive, so everyone scrambles out, leaving Mr. Thompson behind. As Rick's group exits the elevator, Cole spots them. More people spill out of the elevator, leading to Rick and Debbie getting separated in the chaos. As everyone gets corralled by the police, Tina spots Stan and beats him up for attending the party with women. Meanwhile, Debbie tries to find her way out when Cole grabs her. Rick and his buddies see him carrying Debbie into a road service truck, so they chase after them with a school bus. The truck stops at a theater, and Cole drags Debbie inside one of the cinemas. Rick's group soon arrives and decides to split up to look for the bride-to-be. Eventually, Rick reaches a room featuring a 3D movie where Cole is dragging his fiancée to the stage. The groom-to-be confronts his rival and starts a fight, mirroring the action scene from the movie, which leads the audience to think that they're part of the film. Eventually, Rick knocks Cole out and saves his fiancée, who runs to his arms. Meanwhile, Brad's intrusive thoughts get the better of him, so he drives the bus into the theater and crashes into the screen. screen. The audience applauds, thinking it's still part of the 3D film's effects. Soon, Rick and Debbie get married, much to the bride's family's dismay. Before they kiss, Rick chases his new wife into the bus, where they finally have their first kiss as a married couple, thus beginning their wild and chaotic journey together.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.